we cannot underestimate the severity of these Trump tariffs. We heard Donald Trump again yesterday on a video to the World Economic Forum saying we don't need Canada's oil and gas, we don't need Canada's lumber, we don't need Canada's cars. They should become our 51st state, and if they don't, we're going to put tariffs. This is very, very serious. There is a severe economic impact about to hit Canada, hit the province of Ontario, and we are going to need a very strong mandate to be able to fund a recovery. This will be tens of billions of dollars that we are going to ask the people of Ontario to let us borrow to be able to help families and businesses throughout the next weeks, months, and God only hope it's not years.
Critics would say that you already have a strong mandate. You have about, 80 seats in the legislature right now? Or you're projected to win 80 seats in the legislature?
We're about to spend tens of billions of dollars, and we think the people should have a say. It's their money that it will be spent, and we think the people should have a say on how that money is spent and whether we should be doing that.
I know I'm going way back in the history books, but I always think back to 1990 when David Peterson had a huge majority, called an early election, and the NDP won. Is there any fear that people might rebel a little bit to go into the polls and spending that extra money a year early?
Yeah, this isn't about the politics of it. This is about fighting Donald Trump, having the tools in place. It's all about the tariffs. That's our sole focus, is the tariffs and the people of Ontario. We put, just quite frankly, the politics need to be put aside, the historical politics and the comparisons. This is about helping the people of Ontario, helping the people of Canada as well, by fighting the tariffs.
What about a federal response, though? Shouldn't this be a federal response as much as or far greater, actually, than a provincial response?
It should be, and it will be. The federal government will be retaliating. They have said so. They'll retaliate in kind. Any of the monies that comes from the federal retaliation, we are going to insist be distributed to families and businesses affected as soon as possible. That will be also tens of billions, but it doesn't satisfy the Ontario-specific response. You know, there's a lot in our. You've heard the expression, we're going to use everything in all the tools in our toolbox. It will include things like, you've heard the Premier say, we will no longer buy American liquor at the LCBO. That's a punishing move. We have critical minerals. You know, think about this for a moment. I heard President Trump say we don't need Canada's lumber. Well, they buy 84% of all the lumber they import comes from Canada. So it's hard to argue with the facts, though. He just doesn't seem to pay attention to the facts. Think about another couple of quick statistics, more of interest to Northern Ontario. 80% of all the nickel that is used in United States aerospace construction comes from Ontario. 56% of all nickel used in United States defense construction comes from Ontario. So it's hard to say, we don't need anything from Ontario. You're going to need our critical minerals. You will not be able to build an F-35 airplane.
There's still a good chance that this is just talk. There's been plenty of instances in the past where he talks and then he changes his stance. If his stance changes come February 1st and the tariffs don't come in, Ontarians will be focused on the election and not moving forward in how to respond to Trump.
You know, I met with Newt Gingrich when I was in Washington on Monday, and he said he's bringing these tariffs in. Like, let's not fool ourselves. These tariffs are coming, whether it's on February 1, April 1, whatever date he brings these tariffs in. Those tariffs are coming. This is his tool. And what former Speaker Gingrich said is, you got to figure out what is it he wants and make sure you satisfy somehow. Give him a win somewhere. And, you know, it may or may not be about the money. I watched him this morning, and again he said he's subsidizing Canada. And that is going to change. He said we're no longer going to subsidize Canada. It's hard to argue with him now. He's wrong. It's not a subsidy. There's a trade imbalance slightly, and it's because the Americans, import 60% of the oil that they do import comes from Canada. 10% from Mexico, and all the rest from Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. I always thought it was the other way, by the way. But it's 60% of the oil they import comes from Canada. That makes a trade imbalance because they don't ship us oil. We ship them oil. So, there's about $100 million trade imbalance. It's not a subsidy. And by the way, if we're going to use the word subsidy, we're selling that oil at $55 a barrel. We're subsidizing their oil. It's because it's the oil from the oil sands, and it needs to be processed in Texas and in Louisiana. So they will lose thousands and thousands of jobs if we cut off the oil.
Is it time to maybe re-strategize now, maybe then? Shutting off energy to the United States, shutting off oil, shutting off gas if they don't need it. Is that a strategy that Ontario is currently looking at? And maybe have you talked to your federal counterparts about taking that option? Well,
the federal government, they're the ones who are doing the negotiation with the United States. And so we like to say they have the pen on this file, but it's the provinces who are supplying the ink. So the federal government has asked the provinces, what do you believe we should do to retaliate? And so we've given them a list, going after whether it's swing states, going after very specific items. We did it last time in 2018, bourbon from Kentucky, oranges from Florida, that type of thing. That's what we did last time. So we've given them our list of target states. Think about this. In Ontario, we are the #1 customer for 17 U.S. states. We're the #2 customer for 11 more states. If we have a trade war between us, those 28 states, they're going to hurt more than anybody. When I was in the states throughout the month of January, there were the consumer electronic companies handing out stickers that said tariffs are taxes on Americans. So, it's hard when we have all the facts on our side